Chris Sewall here, baseball card collector, investor, dealer in that order. Welcome everyone. Today going to go over a purchase I made from a viewer of the channel, a Glenn, who I've done a bunch of deals with at this point, at least 10 deals I would say through the mail, so we're very sort of comfortable with each other. And this is a pretty impressive collection. It's a 1998 Flair Showcase Legacy Collection Row Zero parallels. These are all serial numbered out of 100, and this collection had 53 of them. That represents more than half the set. Something like 15 or 20 of them are graded. Pretty, 1998 card serial numbered out of 100. That's getting kind of rare. Today, a card serial numbered out of 100 isn't super impossible, but from the 90s, we're talking about 25-year-old cards here, serial numbered out of 100, and to have 53 from the set is pretty cool. But yeah, going to go over the cards, then what I paid for them, and what I'm sort of expecting to get out of it as a dealer looking to make a profit on these cards here. Now, there were none of the big names in the collection, like there was no Bonds or Jeter or Griffey or Ripken, but there are plenty of Hall of Famers and some other relevant names. Here's Curt Schilling. You can see they're all numbered out of 100, like I mentioned. And there's a lot of counterfeits of these. The counterfeits usually don't have the name on the back, so that's a good sign that they're legit. And obviously a bunch of them graded by PSA, so these are all, of course, legit. But yeah, Curt Schilling was the first one. Tim Salmon, another sort of star of the era, again, numbered out of 100. And there's a lot of players at this level. Curt Schilling, Tim Salmon, non-Hall of Famers, but there were relevant names in the 90s, and that's significant, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Reggie Sanders, Matt Stairs, Jason Giambi was a big name of the 90s, Jose Cruz Jr., Brady Anderson, Juan Encarnacion for the Tigers, that's Alan Bennis and Al Martin, Jarrett Wright, Darren Erstad. If you're a 90s fan, you recognize a lot of these names. Vinny Castilla, Kevin Brown. And you might say, well, these are just all commons, but when you're dealing with really, really rare cards like these, the difference between a common, like a pure common, and sort of a minor star can actually be pretty significant. There was Ray Langford in there and Matt Williams. There's Darryl Kyle. Again, everything is serial numbered out of 100. Chili Davis. And that's because while, a pure common might have no collectors, a minor star of an era will have collectors. People who are just big fans of that team or of that player or whatever, and they won't have a lot of cards to chase. There's Rafael Palmeiro, Andres Galarraga is a good one, Moises Alou. There will be people who want to chase that player because there was fans of him. And when you're dealing with rare cards, you don't have a lot of cards to chase, so these are cards that those collectors can chase. Fred McGriff is, I think, the only Hall of Famer that wasn't graded. And then John Olerud was a star of the 90s who was, a very popular player. And again, even though Olerud would be basically a common, this card's worth more than a common because there are Olerud collectors out there, even if there's just a few. And this card's so scarce that it's something for them to chase. All right, the graded, slightly better names overall. Juan Gonzalez got a 9, PSA 9, two-time MVP. And Andrew Jones, he may make the Hall of Fame at some point. Andrew Jones, he's still on the ballot, I believe. PSA 9. Larry Walker is in the Hall of Fame. PSA 8 for the Larry Walker. John Jaha got an 8. Steve Finley in a PSA 9. And again, these are all going to be very low pop counts, of course. 1990s cards out of 100. John Smoltz is in the Hall of Fame, and that's a PSA 9. Rondell White is a PSA 10. I think there were 3 PSA 10s in this collection. They're all commons. But PSA 10s of these are going to be, quite low pop counts. 10 for Rondell White. Bernard Gilkey here in a PSA 9. Tony Womack, there's a second PSA 10. And there'll be people out there putting this set together, so they'll want the commons in as high grade as possible. Brad Radke in an 8. Justin Thompson, PSA 9. Here's the lowest grade. Henry Rodriguez in a PSA 6. Maglio Ordonez, this is actually his rookie, 1998 Flair Showcase. Maglio Ordonez rookie, PSA 9. He was a star for a little while. I think he was a PED guy. Andy Pettit, PSA 9. I think he was also a PED guy. Otherwise would have sort of been like a borderline Hall of Fame candidate. Dante Bichette had some good years in a 9. Bobby Higginson, there's the third PSA 10 of the collection. And the last 3 cards are the 3 biggest or the 3 most valuable. Alex Rodriguez, PSA 9, another PED guy, but Alex Rodriguez, one of the greatest hitters of all time, but has been kept out of the Hall of Fame, obviously, for PED stuff. Craig Biggio is in the Hall of Fame. He's a very popular Hall of Famer. He's statistically sort of like a low-end Hall of Famer, but very popular. Played his entire career with the Astros, and that's a PSA 9. And yeah, there's definitely Craig Biggio collectors out there, Astros fans. And Mike Piazza, one of the greatest hitting catchers in baseball history, PSA Mint 9. And yeah, Mike Piazza is also in the Hall of Fame. So yeah, the Piazza, the Biggio, and the A-Rod are the 3 most valuable cards of the collection. So yeah, Glenn reached out looking to sell this collection, and like I said, we've done a bunch of deals together at this point. And normally when people reach out, they're looking for me to make an offer, or me to suggest a price that I would pay, and I'm always happy to do that. Although I'll of course always ask up front, do you have an asking price in mind? And if they do, that makes things easier. But if not, no worries. In this particular case, Glenn kind of knew exactly what he was looking for. He had priced it out up front, and even provided a spreadsheet, which was awesome. It makes my life a whole lot easier. I broke it down card by card, what he sort of thought the card was worth, which is the third column, and what he was looking to get for it, which is the fourth column. And he was generally asking for around 2/3 value, so 65 to 70% or so, somewhere in that ballpark range. And that's sort of where I would generally land with this sort of collection. You can see the totals at the bottom. He had calculated that he thought the market value was about 3,260, and that he was asking 2210, but he said he would take 2,000 for the entire collection. Now, it's something to be very aware of with these sort of cards is they're very hard to price, because a lot of these cards will have no comps, no recent sales, or there'll be one sale from 6 months ago, and it's tough to tell if it's a legit sale or not. You're sort of guessing on a lot of these things, and a lot of the players, it's not I don't know off the top of my head if Kevin Brown sells real well, or Matt Williams, or not, and so you'll sort of have to guess with a lot, and that's what he did, and I thought he did a pretty good job guessing. We went back and forth a little bit like normal. I thought his prices were a little bit too high, not by much, but going over the list myself, I valued it more like 2,700 to 2,800 in market value, and so he was asking 2,000. I offered 1,800, and he accepted, throwing in one more common, which was not on the original list, Chili Davis. He accepted that offer and shipped me the cards, and I paid him, and we were good to go. If you watch my channel regularly, I really like cards like these. I call them low supply, low demand cards. They're very rare cards that not really a lot of people are chasing, but they do have some demand. There are people out there who want them. They're not worthless cards. There are plenty of very rare cards that are also worthless because nobody wants them. That's not these. These are rare, and there are not a lot of people who want them, but there are some. And I call it, again, low supply, low demand. And what I like about that is you can set your own asking price, because chances are in many of these cases I'll have the only one available on the market, or one of very few, and I can price it high and see if I get lucky with some prices, and if not, I can just lower the prices over time until eventually it gets down to a point where somebody wants to buy it. So I like doing that. It takes a long time. You have to be very, very patient, but I'm in this for the long haul, so I'm willing to be patient. For example, for the 3 PSA 10s here, these are going to be low pops. These are all complete commons. I don't think there's going to be collectors of any of these players, but might be someone putting the set together, or who knows why somebody would want these. But there will be somebody who wants them in a PSA 10, and they're very low pop, so I can set high asking prices and just see if I get lucky. In my opinion, these are not the kind of cards that should be sent to auction. Like if you sent these to auction, they might sell for very, very low. If I sent every card from this collection to auction, I would guess that I would lose money. And that's because, again, there's not a lot of people who want them. So if you send it to auction, it just doesn't have that much, there's not much time for the people who would want them to see it, right? You're just running a quick auction. They would have to luckily stumble upon that auction in that 7-day window or whatever. And most likely the people who want it will never see that auction, and it just won't go very high. Whereas if you list it in your store and are very, very patient, giving it time, and eventually over time, people who are interested in these cards will eventually see it. But you can only sort of do that if you're not eager to get your money back quick, because that's not what will happen with this strategy. The major stars here, I would call these the 6 biggest stars of the collection. Same thing, I would definitely not send these to auction for the same reason I just mentioned. I'll price these very high, see if something just happens to click, and if not, lower it over time. And again, I like doing that because it gives you a little bit of upside. I'm going to grade 2 additional cards, the Fred McGriff and the Brady Anderson. The Fred McGriff's the Hall of Famer, but the Brady Anderson I'm only doing because I recently sold a very rare Brady Anderson PSA graded card. It was serial numbered at 25, and I guessed beforehand that it would probably sell for about $100. And I did exactly what I said. I priced it really, really high just to see if I got lucky, and it insta-sold at 250. So maybe there's a Brady Anderson, super collectors out there that will pay really high for his rare cards. Hoping that's the case with this here. And for the cheaper cards in the commons, I'll probably send most of those to COMC and just price them at basically fair market value. And probably a lot of them won't sell very quickly. It'll take quite a while to sell through them, but again, I'm in this for the long haul, so that's fine with me. Here's how I would sort of estimate it'll turn out in the end. Remember, a lot of these cards, it's really hard to estimate what they'll sell for. Like, will it sell for 20 or 50? Or you know, maybe if it can't even get 20 and I have to ultimately take 10, or you know, maybe one of the cards goes way high. You never know. But the low end, I would say, is the first row, you know, 2,200 in sales. I would say that's basically a break even when you factor in fees. I would say that's pretty unlikely that it turns out that poorly. My best guess is the middle row. That's sort of what I expect to happen. I expect to get about 2,800 out of it. When you factor in fees and the fact that I paid 1,800, that would give me about a $600 profit, or 580 as it shows there on the chart. And there is high end potential here. Some of these cards could sell a lot higher than we think. You know, the Brady Anderson, for example, is one I have my eye on. But yeah, I mean, in theory, you know, who knows? There could be a few of the cards that sell a lot higher. Maybe maybe there's a Matt Williams super collector and there's two of them, and they'll battle it out and pay way high. Who knows? But I'll definitely give a lot of the cards the chance for that to happen. But most of the time it doesn't. But every once in a while it does. Like I said, it's a game I really like to play, and I really enjoy, you know, filling my eBay store, my COMC, with these sort of cards, because not a lot of people have them, and these are cards from my childhood. I was a collector. I was, you know, a big collector in the 1990s. I love these cards and these players. And yeah, that's, you know, kind of why I became a dealer. So I get to make a living, you know, playing with cards that I really like. But that's it. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you have any questions about any of this. And of course, thank you to Glenn for the continued business and for, yeah, selling me this very cool collection. But until next time, have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.